This is Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. And now we'll be talking to the chairman, Allied People's Movement, Yusuf Muhammad Dantali. He is also the National Secretary, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, and to also talk to us about, you know, young political parties. He said that there are no small political parties, but young political parties. We'll take a look at, you know, these perspectives now. Welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
All right, now there's this, you know, conversation about political parties that only resurface when it's time for elections. Why are we not seeing engagement by, you know, these young political parties until when it's time for elections?
Thank you so much. I don't understand. I don't know the yardstick which you use in evaluating the presence of these political parties before general elections, but if you say elections, I think you can go to INEC will give the records of activities or involvement in democratic process during elections. You know there are by-elections in states, constituencies and all that. And all the political parties are talking about having members of a part of these elections. So for you to say these political parties are not, their presence are not felt until the general elections is not true.
Well, if you talk about that, the first thing I'll say is, well, you conduct primaries, you participate in elections, and not many people even know the candidates, you know, in the parties, you know, that are contesting for elections and all of that. I mean, we hear about APC, we hear about PDP. Yes, we say they are the dominant parties, you know, in the polity and all of that. But we do not, you know, see as much.
Okay, I think
that's the angle I'm coming from.
Okay, thank you so much. When you have to go back to the foundation of some of these things. You know the effect of money in Nigerian politics or Africa in general. Some of these parties, the difference between us and some of these parties, APC or PDP, is because of maybe funds. We do not have the funds that they have to move about to do some of these things. Some of these parties have they occupy government office or political offices, executive offices that have access to funds that we do not have. And then they use some of these resources to galvanize support for their members we do not have. They give appointments to some of their members we do not have. So we go about with the little resources that we bring out as members of the political party to prosecute our activities in the parties. So it will be difficult for us to be able to compete with some of them in some of these things that they do. So that is why you think or you feel our presence is not felt. But of course, we have been existing, we are part of all the processes of electioneering in Nigeria.
Do you think that there's a challenge, you know, in mobilizing support for your political party, for instance?
Yeah, of course.
You know, for Nigerians to join, you know, your political party. What are some of the challenges that you face? The challenge
is first, just like you should know the economic situation of Nigeria, the level of poverty and the level of illiteracy. Today, maybe because of the level of illiteracy, an average Nigerian do not even see politicians seeking office as if they are going to represent them, but they look at it as you are going to make your own money. So let's collect what we can from them and then you go and do whatever you want to do. You know what I am talking about.
Isn't this because of the distrust people have had, you know, on politicians over time?
You see, it's symbiotic. Both the electorate and the people are guilty because some of us, I don't know at what level we got to that, but in the past, our elders, they question your source of wealth, you understand. But today it is whoever pays the piper that dictates the tune of the music. It doesn't matter how you get it. What is important is just get it. And people feel, take it and go and do. And then maybe effect of some of the effects of what we call globalization today, and effect of internet that people believe, okay, like the effect of Yahoo, people believe there are shortcuts to wealth, okay. So the wealth is a serious relationship between the economy or economic situation of people and their political participation. Okay. So as long as you go, no matter how good you are, no matter what you think you can give to the people, as long as you don't have the financial power to back whatever you are saying up by giving the people what they expect from you financially, you are saying nothing.
Okay. You know, some people have also argued that smaller political parties do not have, you know, that power to make impact, to reach, you know, the target of Nigeria's population. Is that so?
You are correct. That is the belief. Recently, there's this, there are agencies like NIPS, National Institute for Strategic Studies, Policy and Strategy in Kuru. Then there are major stakeholders in Nigerian democratic process. They have tried to do so many things, tried to support political parties when the agencies like IRI, agencies like EU, on how to use the social media, for instance, to attract membership and to build. And it's helping for political parties. And that is one part. And you know, so many things have been wrong with our electoral process, which we believe that by the time the president has sent to the amendment in the Electoral Act and a few things about the Constitution, it will change. I think it's about absence of level playing ground for all to strive.
Now, how can we deal with the issue of sourcing funds, you know, for political parties? Are there other avenues of generating funds, or it has to be, you know, by, you know, state coffers, or maybe, you know, monthly dues, which are not even really paid by, you know, some members of political parties and all of that? How can we, you know, raise funds for political parties?
Thank you. You see, it starts like this. Well, let me just borrow something from my chief, the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who said, if you must solve a problem, you have to address the problem from the root. If you cut the stems, the problem still lingers. The thing is, the remuneration attached to political office hold in Nigeria is outrageous. So the lucrativity is high. And because of that, for instance, today, the moment you are a senator, or in short, House of Assembly member, you see bank coming after you to give you loans that you don't ask. Take this in millions, in hundreds of millions. You go to the national, so the same thing, House of Rep bank go to you. So because of the lucrativity of these offices, people can afford to deploy every arsenal at their disposal, legitimately and or illegitimately, to ensure they get it, because they know whatever they spend, they will get it back. Until we are able to address that lucrativity, so that people know that you are going to serve, you are not going to make money. You are not going to be transformed into overnight millionaire. At that point, you'll be able to, the effect of money in our polity will reduce. Then people will now, that will now attract quality contestants. And that is that. And then you can, the small money that political parties will generate from membership drive, maybe monthly and annual subscription, will be able to drive these projects effectively.
All right. Now, do you in the Electoral Act, there's an increase on the costs or the spending limits for political offices, you know, for politicians who are vying for those offices. Do you have a problem with, you know, the recent increase in the monies, the spending limits?
No, I think it's okay. It's not bad. I agree with it, because if you look at the inflation, or the trend of inflation in Nigeria today, you see that the Naira is really battling to, you see people's legitimate income cannot even give them the basic needs. So if that is increased to what the reality of the moment, there's nothing wrong in that. My issue is not about that limit. It's about what goes to the individual political office holders. You understand? You go at times on the media, you see House of Rep member distributing 50 million Naira each to constituency. You understand? House of Assembly member constructing roads. So there's clash between the roles of the executive and the roles of the legislature. You understand? Why is this happening? So some of these things, until we address it.
Okay. Now, the Electoral Act, you know, sets some guidelines to deregister political parties. And some have actually argued that this is posing a threat, you know, to the nation's democracy. Are you in that line as well? Which of the guidelines,
which one in particular, which of the guidelines you think will pose a threat to democracy?
Smaller political parties who cannot garner enough membership, you know, to actually put out people to actually vote in an election.
There's nothing wrong in that. Of course, the function of political party first is to win election. And how do you win election when you don't have members? So it is a good thing. That is only meant to make the political parties or the actors work for membership drive. I don't see anything wrong in that. It's okay.
All right. I mean, our politics is heavily monetized. I mean, that's why we're having these discussions. as to the chances of small political parties who do not have as much funds as some of these big political parties. How do we, ensure that, there is no monetization as much as we see now in the coming elections? For instance, vote buying. We see that it's almost becoming a normal thing, in our politics. So how do we ensure that we deal with the issue of vote buying? Because now, even institutions of state that are supposed to, keep an eye on that, they tend to look the other way when that is happening in our polling units and all of that. Is there a way out of this?
Thank you. When you say the institution of state that are saddled with responsibility of maybe prosecuting offenders, so the question is who appointed them? How are they appointed? You don't expect me to appoint you, just like you going to fight your MD. You understand? So until there are substantial checks, to how the leaders or the drivers of this institution or agencies, how they come on board, it's not, maybe the power is streamed, okay, from one particular office. For instance, the president of this country have the power, he nominates who becomes the IG. The president of the country nominates the INEC chairman and the rest. So until maybe some of these offices are put to election too, just like other, you understand? So there are. I
mean, we are talking about independence of some of these institutions, isn't it?
Yes.
INEC, for instance,
so
is
until
an
they are
independent
fully
body.
independent, they are maybe at least 80 to 90% independent. That is where you can have these things work. Look at what happened. Let's take a clue for what happened in the United States during Donald Trump and the current president election. Donald Trump wanted to resist some things by using the state security institution. But I think the chief of army staff came out to say, my allegiance is not to any individual, but to the Constitution of the United States of America. These are places that the institution work. You understand? So, but I think gradually we are getting there with the amendment in Constitution and amendment.
Is that a product of Constitution or principle? That we have seen people abide, or I would say live by, in some of these developed nations. We have seen people resign for merely being accused of some fraudulent activities, even if they were not true, for just merely being accused. People have had to resign, from their offices and all of that. And that's because of the principles that they believe in, and all of that, and the ideologies that they run with. Do we have that? How can we have that in Nigeria?
This takes you back to what I said earlier, that until we are able to work on the lucrativity of these offices. Now, can you compare the remuneration of a senator in the United States to that of Nigeria?
Lucrativity sounds like a business.
No, that is what it meant to look like in this country. Let's be sincere. We must be sincere with ourselves. What makes you think the moment you assume political office, the next thing the bank will start chasing you to give you loan? Why? No, why? The banks following you, going to your office, bringing all things, giving you offers that you didn't ask for. So why? Because we have the government to provide these things for the people. So why are banks following you with money?
All right. Well, let's go on a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on the program. Stay with us, please.
My ambition is for PDP to be united. If you have a united party, then you are sure of victory. What does it profit you that you want to be a president and you have a presidential ticket of a party and the party cannot win the election? Does it make sense? So it's even better that you're not even a presidential candidate, but the party wins election. So for me, the unity of the party is paramount. It's not going about you want to be president, don't be president. For me, it is how the party be united and fight this evil, this monster they call the All Progressive Congress. So, but what I came here has nothing to do with that. What I come here is to see one of our leaders who just came back and who God, in special grace, has given the health so as to be able to lead the party in this state as against 2023, and encourage him to continue doing what he's doing. Because it's surprising for me as an opposition party, the number of councillors they have in the last local government election, the number of council chairmen they have. It has never happened. So you need to encourage them to also let them know that we know what they are facing and they have support from us. And that is why I came here. But about the issue of presidency of Nigeria, about PDP, the party will meet at the appropriate time and take a decision. It's not a one-man decision. Whether you send it to west, east, north, and east, what is important is who will have the capacity to challenge this party and move Nigeria forward. Because Nigeria is bleeding. Nigeria is waiting for us. And we must bring somebody who has what it takes to move Nigeria from where we are to what every Nigerian expects.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. We have in the studio Chairman, Allied People's Movement, Yusuf Mamman Dantali, and he is also the National Secretary, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, talking to us about the role of smaller political parties in our polity. Now, others have said the best way to move away from this is to have coalitions, is to have parties coming together, parties with similar ideologies, just like we saw in the 2015 when the APC itself, was formed. A lot of parties came together to form that, and they were able to, take out the PDP in power at the time, who were aspiring. The PDP was aspiring to rule Nigeria for, we had 60 years, at the time and all that. But they were able to take them out. So, is that an option for smaller political parties?
Very, very correct. Coalition is a very good development. A lot of political parties are working on that. A lot of interests are coming together. Okay, I believe that will play, but it's still not enough. And you see, Coalition 1, the direct transmission of votes, okay, electronic transmission of votes is another thing that is going to it will go a long way to make the whole election process better and fairer, because some of the interceptions we have, especially at the Coalition Center, will be wiped by this development. And another thing too that we have been clamoring for at the level of Inter-Party Advisory Council is the total obliteration of this evil called a State Independent Electoral Commission. You know that any state that any governor or any political party that has the governor of that state automatically gets the local government, because he brings out those people he think are his own loyalists, and because he appoints the chairman of the CIEC in his state and all other persons that are members of his political parties. So some of these things. So I agree with you that the coalition will play a very substantial role, and the review in the Electoral Act, if assented to. Okay.
Well, we need to also look beyond in terms of the behavior of electorates, the way, the thinking of the ordinary Nigerian. How can political parties engage with these Nigerians to actually have a belief, in these political parties? To begin to see that, look, we do not have any other option but to engage, at whatever level, so that democracy can work, for the ordinary citizen.
This theme, if we have to be sincere to ourselves, it's not just about the electoral process. We have to tie it to the economic well-being of the people. We have to tie it to the educational, the level of awareness of the people. Our politicians, our leaders should please try as much as possible to make the welfare of the people better. Let education, at least basic education, be accessible to the common man. You understand? So where people are poor, people are hungry, you understand, people are living below poverty line, they accept anything that will give them food.
so that they seems like a weapon that is being used now.
That is just the weapon. People. So until our people are better, until the basic earnings of the people can give them, or the legitimate earnings can give them at least 60%, 70% basic needs. Okay, today basic salary, okay, that not even all the states are paying is about 30,000 naira. You are in Nigeria. What can 30,000 naira do for anybody today?
Okay.
What is it? What you look at school fees in secondary school and in primary school, and university. So as long as people have no access to quality basic education, people have no access, or the majority of the people cannot feed. So if they see anything that will give them food, that point they will go for it so they can survive. Right. So that is the problem. Until that is done, we will continue to have same problem.
Okay. Now, would you say smaller political parties, you know, have strategies in place to deal with voter apathy? Because even, you know, larger political parties face voter apathy in some way.
You know, in the new Electoral Act, in the past, INEC had no power to prosecute electoral offenders. But today, INEC will be empowered, if this thing is done, to prosecute offenders, okay, at whatever level. So as long as INEC can prosecute offenders, okay, and maybe, I know, secondly, you know, the Electoral Act said the INEC should declare result, okay, whatever it is, they declare result at the end of it, then you go to the tribunal. But the new Electoral Act, if it's ascended to, as long as it is visible that the whole process is marred with irregularities that is visible, INEC can declare result. So if these things, there are lots of changes, okay, being embarked upon in the new Electoral Act. So you see a lot of things will happen, okay. And then I think the election, if you look at what happened in Anambra and what is going to happen in Osun and Ekiti State, okay, will say a lot about, it will give us a picture of what the 2023 election will be. And you saw what the people of Edo State did the other time. But I think that has to do with the level of awareness of the people believing in what they want and standing by it, okay, in the midst of all intimidation and pressure from the powers that be. But they stood by what they want, and thank God we have a president that will not subscribe to, will not meddle into the affairs of INEC, for instance, or the affairs of the court. He will allow the process to take its course. So, and that has played a very good part in sanitizing the electoral process. So I believe, by the grace of God, and then with the legacy of Professor Mahmoud that I strongly believe we want to leave behind, we are going to have it better.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspectives with us. We've been speaking with Chairman, Allied People's Movement, Yusuf Mamman Dantali. He is also the National Secretary, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. Thank you again for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Now we'll take a well, we've come to the end of the show, really, so no need for breathers anymore. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on our YouTube. You also connect with us on our social media platforms so that you can continue to be abreast with, issues of national concern. My name is Ayuba Ilya, and I'm saying bye for now.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.